Okay, maybe I'll bring people in. We have quite a few in the waiting room. When I do that, there is it's automatic. There is muting everyone. So just remember to unmute before. I'm gonna do that now, and you can unmute before you get to speak. Yeah, if you want to unmute now, so we don't forget. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. Just waiting for everyone to join in, and we're gonna get started. Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to another corporate webinar hosted by the Association for Coaching. Sari, Director of Digital Learning and Podcast, and host for this webinar. It's a great pleasure to have you all with us today as we are going to discuss about transformational team coaching. I'm sure you're very curious about it. We have invited for this Dr. Sari Van Hoye, who is going to lead us through today's session. And she's the director of the Intact Academy, and she's going to share a little bit more about herself in a moment. So we want to know a little bit more about what Sari's been doing over the last many years that she's been involved in coaching. Hello, how are you doing today, Sari?
I'm great, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute to look people in the eye. Always good thing to do on a Friday morning.
Absolutely.
Friday morning here. Hello, everybody. It would be great if you turn on your video so we know you're not bots and that you're actually live people doing live coaching. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. That's better. Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. My name is Sari van Poelje. This is my 40th anniversary this year of giving team coach training. I do that in 10 different countries. And I'm thinking, my, that went really quickly. So some of you are smiling. I guess it's going very quickly for you as well. Sharon is nodding. There you go. I'm an EMCC master coach, master team coach, and master supervisor. And from the Intact Academy, we give accredited training in executive coaching and team coaching. And it's very practical. I always think it's really nice to know all kinds of concepts, but it's much more important what to do with them. So that's what I'm hoping to share with you today. I'm hoping to share something about the way we team coach, why we team coach, and also it will be very interactive. I hope that's okay with you. Are you awake enough for that? Yes? Good, great. So if you're awake enough, how many of you are actually team coaches? So if you, thank you. I'm getting all sorts of hearts here. So how many of you are actually actively team coaching? You can raise your hand so I can see it as well. Yeah, so experienced team coach is great. How many of you are actually experienced coaches? So you've been coaching individually for more than 5 years? Fantastic. Oh, look at that. Oh, what a talented bunch. Okay, great. So I'm going to be sharing a presentation with you, and you can get the presentation afterwards, so you don't have to be really quick in writing things down. You'll also probably get a recording, so that's okay. So stay present and be interactive. I love getting questions. You know, after 40 years, you get a bit tired of hearing yourself speak as well. So please ask questions as they come. Smaranda, you'll be looking in the chat probably for questions. Just call them out as they come up. That would be great.
Keep them coming.
Yes, keep them coming. Here we go. I think this is it. So this is where we were. Transformational team coaching. Yeah, I called it that because there's lots of forms of team coaching. So some people like the behavioral stuff, some people dive straight into relational, but I always think what I want to do is transform at many different levels. And we're going to talk about those levels in a while, and I'll explain more about that. This is, well, you can see it. I've been a coach and I've been a director in multinationals as well. That really helps, by the way, if you're a team coach. Therefore, personal use. So please don't use it if you train. Please don't use these for your training programs. So we're going to start by what is team coaching. We'll go into what is the first question you ask, which is, do you really need a team? And then we'll go into the levels. Is that okay with y'all? Yeah. Good. So my personal purpose in doing team coaching is really because I want to promote innovation. And I know from my work and also my experience, innovation is really hard to do if you're not working in a team. So if there's not a sense of interdependence, people usually don't innovate very well. And because we're having such big problems, we have to accelerate innovation. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but it is the one reason that I am out there promoting teams and team development. I also think, but this is personal and maybe not all of you have that same sense, that we've lost a sense of interdependence in the world. And certainly the last few months, that's really accelerated. It's a much more, people are promoting, politicians are promoting a culture of everyone for themselves. And I think we're losing something really precious. And when you're a team coach, what you're working on all the time is interdependence and partnership. And I would say that really to be a team coach, you have to be really good in partnership. Because if you're not very good at it, it's very hard to teach others to do that too. And with partnership, I mean a sense of homonomy. So, you know, in the past 150 years in psychology, we've been promoting autonomy. People confuse that with independence, but I think we really need to promote a world in which we do feel, if I win, you win. If you lose, I lose. And yeah, that's really my main message. Yeah, so two big things. If you want to innovate, you need teams, and it's something precious that we're losing in the world today. So I think it's really important to do. I don't know, does that resonate with anyone, or am I just talking to myself here? Is this your sense as well, that we're kind of losing this sense of interdependence in the world, and it's part of what we can do as team coaches? Irene is going like this, so I guess that means yes in your language. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I think it's really, really important in the work that we do. So that's the reason I do it. I think if you want to be a successful team coach, you have to figure out what your reason for doing it is as well. Because in Holland, it sounds a bit disrespectful, but we have more coaches than cows. And so Ria's laughing. So I guess you know what I mean. But so it's really, really important to know what your purpose is in the coaching, because clients will find you on that. Okay. So when we talk about team coaching, there's a lot of people who've written about it. Of course, Peter Hawkins, David Clutterbuck, mostly them have written a lot about it. In Phoenix, Arizona, I forgot her name for a second, but it'll come to me. But one of the important things, if you go from individual coaching to team coaching, it is not the same. So team coaching is not 1 + 1 = 2. So those of you who think you can use your methods of coaching, of course, in team coaching, but it is a completely different perspective. As a team coach, you are coaching the whole team as an entity, not the individuals in the team. So it's not Peter, Paul, Mary, and if I coach them well, I'll have done team coaching. The entity of the team is your client. So that means that the individuals are less important than the team itself. In practice, for instance, this means that if someone in the team is not capable of being a team member, then probably they have to leave for the good of the team. And sometimes that gives really extreme reactions. I remember one team, it was a fintech startup. I was coaching the board, and there were 6 people in there. And once they realized that team coaching was about creating interdependence and that, they weren't the big stars, solo stars anymore, but it was about the team as an entity. I think 2 weeks later, 3 people left because they said, I'm here as an expert. I don't want to work in a team. So it can have big consequences, this. The other thing in team coaching is we're focused on team performance. So in the end, whatever you do is about the team performance. And there are measures for that, as you probably know. But it is not about individual performance. It's about what can you do together that you cannot do alone. I would say that is the main question in team coaching always for my clients. What can we do together that we can't do alone? And it's often where I start with team coaching. Why are you together in the first place? Is there something you can't do together alone? Then probably you want to become a team. So are there any questions so far? Is this clear, the difference between individual and team coaching? Maria is going, yes, I'm guessing that's true. I say this explicitly because I have a lot of colleagues who go in as really good individual coaches and they come into a team and they start coaching individually and they forget that the team is really the client. And you need systemic concepts to be able to do team coaching. Your individual concepts won't work here alone. So you need to be trained in team coaching to do team coaching is basically what I'm saying. So let's see how many of you actually have done team coach training specifically. So who has done specific team coach training so far? I've got 3 pages to scroll through, so this is going to take there's a lot of people who haven't turned their cameras on. Do you think it's nonsense? Do you think you need specific team coach training? Hi, Tansy. Thanks for being honest. Yeah. Am I getting the comments in the comments? Sorry, my camera. Yes, I haven't. Yes. I haven't, but can see it's beneficial. Okay. That's a very English statement, I think. Okay, great. So it is very different. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that being said, the first question I always ask when I get to clients, first of all, my clients, my team coach clients usually call me with what I would call relational problems. I don't know what your experience is, but they call me, they're not working together very well. Usually leaders call and say they're not doing what I say, which is an interesting kind of input for the team coaching. But usually they come with human things like Peter is disrupting the team or Maria is only there for herself or something like that. But they rarely come with structural issues. So I'll come back to that in a second. So that's an important thing to say. All of them come with, I want to become a team. And my first question, to be truthful, is why do you want to become a team? Because managing a team is much more costly and time consuming than managing a group. And for me, in my world, a group isn't worse than a team, or the other way around. A team isn't better than a group. It depends what you want to do with it. So we say in Holland, every nail needs a different hammer. It's the same in this. So a group is great if you have volume work that's regulated by standard operating procedures and you want to create operational excellence. A group is fantastic. Good hierarchy, good role definitions, people working together. Groups are great. You have in a group what we call spoke in wheel leadership. So the leader is at the center and they kind of bilateral discussions manage the work. Fantastic. It's scalable. Groups are very scalable. Great. Work, if you have a repetition like job to do, groups are the way to go. You don't need a team for that. If I used to coach a lot of service centers, a client calls with a complaint, they pick up the phone, they go blah, blah, blah. Client says you haven't solved it. They escalate to their team leader. They escalate back, de-escalate back, and then the answer is there. They don't ask their colleagues, what would you do about it? I'm dependent on you. No, they have a spoken wheel. It's enough. However, the more you need to innovate, the more you need a team, because one person never knows enough. So that means that cross-functional cooperation and interdependence becomes more important the more you go towards an innovative business. And there is where you really need a team. But leaders have to know that it will cost them much more because they're not only managing tasks, they also have to manage the interdependence and the cooperation between people. Does that make sense? Yeah, Irene is going, yes, so I'll take her and Colette as well, so I'll take them as the representatives. Go ahead. What's your question? You can unmute.
Hi, thanks. Do you see teams as always being cross-functional? Or can you have, in your definition, a team that is a group of leaders from the same function?
Yeah, I misspoke perhaps because I usually coach executive teams and they're always cross-functional, of course. But a team, of course, can be on a mono-function. But you have to think that part of the team problem is usually that they have to cooperate with other teams. Yeah. So an organization is not a collection of individuals, it's a collection of teams. And so if you do team coaching systemically, you have to always look at how are you going to be successful by cooperating with the other teams in the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I work, for example, with a team of sales leaders.
Yeah, fantastic.
I was just wondering whether that would be a team in your definition, or whether, because they're all from the same function.
I have good and bad news for you. So my experience is that salespeople rarely team. So because they're usually hired because they're very good at other things. But unless you radically change the system of remuneration, probably your salespeople will never form a team. That's the bad news.
Yeah, I get that with incentives, but I work with teams of technology leaders, team marketing leaders, so it's
okay. Cool.
Perhaps a poor example.
Yeah. Okay. Great. It can be monodisciplinary, but you have to take into account that every team has to work in the end cross-functionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the message here is, as a team coach, your first question should be, do you really need a team?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every leader will come and say, oh, we want to become a team. But why?
No, I think that's an excellent point. Thank you.
So that's, Any other questions about this? No, is it clear enough? Yeah, Maria's going like that, so I'll guess. The other thing is, after that, really, when I do team coaching, they usually come with these relational issues, and I tell people, look, most of your relational issues are caused by the fact one, that your purpose isn't clear, and two, that your structure doesn't support your purpose. So, I don't know, Paul and Maria are fighting not because they're such difficult people, but probably because your role definitions overlap. And that's actually usually the case when I get into teams. Or people fight, they don't communicate because they have so many priorities that they don't know what to do anymore. And then you, the leader, complains about the fact that people aren't doing what they say. So over time, I've created this 4-step, really, I call it levels of intervention, but it's really a 4-step focus of team coaching. And this is really what I use as my team coaching model as well when I explain it to leaders, but also when I do it. So is it okay if we go through these 4 levels? Would that be interesting to y'all? Yeah, Anika's going yes. Anika, are you in Holland? No. Okay, it's such a Dutch name.
No, I'm Swedish initially, but I live in France.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Cross-national cooperation then. Great. So are there any questions so far? Because I'm really open.
Yes. Carol is asking, where does the line run between team coach and facilitator? Facilitators guide the process, coaches focus on growth. So when team coaching are doing both or once or switching hats?
Okay, where is Carol? Can you unmute and say something so I can see you? Anywhere?
Carol here.
Yeah.
Hiya, Carol.
Hello.
Great to see you. So what's the difference between team coaching and facilitation?
Yeah.
Wow. I think you have to make your own definition. I know because and do you mean by facilitation also training, for instance?
Yeah, as an experienced facilitator and one-on-one coach, does that give a specific advantage, and what's the kind of difference? Because facilitation is about sort of drawing people out, and you're working with a wider team. So you're not doing one-on-one coaching, you're doing coaching as a team. Does having that facilitation experience help with that is sort of where I'm trying to get to.
Of course. Any human experience helps, Carol. Yeah. But for me, pure team coaching.
Is team coaching just really sort of trying to draw stuff out of the team, sort of getting them to talk to one another? So it's great if they're all pedaling in the same direction, but not so much if they're not.
Okay, so I'll I'll make a comment on this because then you get some kind of vision of what I actually do as a team coach. Then you can give me the answer, actually. So my team coaching always starts, there's a contracting phase. So usually, if you're lucky, the leader themselves call up. If you're unlucky, the HR calls up. Sorry for the HR folks. I was in HR 23 years, but HR usually tries to give me a diagnostic, and I have to tell them, actually, I want to do that myself. So, so you get this contracting phase, and then I have intakes with all the individual members of the team, not to talk about them, but to talk to them about their team experience. This is really important. So individual coaches ask for individual experience in the team. I ask for how is the team doing in various ways. Okay. Then I make a team intervention plan. We have a kickoff. And then purely, Carol, if you would do pure team coaching, you would have a leader meeting where you prepare them. You never want to surprise the leader with what you're going to do in the team. So you do a leader meeting, team coaching with the whole team. If someone's absent, you don't do it. So you do a team coaching, leader, team, leader, team, leader, team. And in those team coaching meetings, what you do is you help them create a direction. So what can we do together we can't do alone? Are we all going for the same purpose? Then you look at, do we have the right structure to do it? Then you look at, how should we cooperate within that structure? And then you go really, we say culture, like, do we have the right values in place? Can we manage our reputation? Now, it is rare, Carol, that I'm only busy with process work in team coaching, because usually I get teams who simply don't know stuff. Like, yeah, improve communication. Can you give us, because 90% of my clients are male engineers in leadership positions. So these human things, I sometimes just have to teach them. You know, and some people would say, yeah, that's not pure team coaching. But I go, yeah, if I ask someone how much is 1 + 1 and they simply don't know the answer, I'm not going to say, how does that feel? I'm going to, I'm going to teach them how to find an answer. So my team coaching is usually mixed with facilitation, is the answer, Carol, is my answer.
It sounds like we're on the same page then, because I do a lot of work where I'm doing that with teams that are either trying to connect and work better or work through a particular process. So whilst I might be facilitating that as a team workshop, there's elements of where you are as a facilitator, I guess, putting in some of that coaching bit as well.
Yes, but I think a difference might be, but I don't know you, that my focus is really performance as a team. So that is really important. So we'll get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Yeah, it's I love that question too. That's why I ask it. So let's go back a bit. We were here, and really what I'm going to do is I'll tell you a little bit about each level or step, depending on what you want to call it, and I'll ask you questions. So there's some back and forth. We probably don't have the time for breakout rooms, but please, when I ask a question, unmute yourself and let's have a conversation. I find that more stimulating. I hope you do too. So we've had this contracting phase and the intake phase, and then you make an intervention plan. I think making intervention plans is one of the things that distinguish professional coaches. So a lot of coaches I speak to, when they come to me, they say, yeah, I coach intuitively. And I go, that's great. Intuition is fantastic, but we like educated intuition. So you need the discipline and the art. And I think one of the things that differentiates really is that you are able to make an intervention plan per session. What are we aiming for? What are we going to do? What exercises are good for the group to create awareness and to change their behavior? If you're not making intervention plans, I would challenge you, but that's not my job here. But I'm just telling you in general that I would challenge you, both at an individual and at a team level. So what we start with usually in a team coaching is looking at what direction are you going in. So this question, Antonio, where you said, what can you do together that you can't do alone, is really the principal focus of that step or that phase in the team coaching.
By the way, sorry to say,
yeah,
that was me complimenting you. I liked your question. I don't ask that. I like it. So when I reread it, I thought it sounds like I asked that. I don't. I'm going to. I liked it.
Oh, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. You know it now. So, yeah. It's a good question to ask at home as well, by the way, Antonio, in case you want a good discussion at home this weekend. But it's what we start with in team coaching as well. And a lot of people have been writing about purpose and compelling purpose, and it's a bit of a deadbeat word at the moment. But what I really want to know is, why are you here together? What is your function in the system within the organization? What is your purpose, your overriding why for the first 6 months? Of course, Most of you know Simon Sinek's work. This is the pragmatic version of that. That purpose is not something that is forever. Usually we talk about this every 6 months in a team. So that's important to know as well. There's a lot of exercises you can do for that, but you can probably find them online as well. There's a great app called Lisa. I hope you know it. It's the app Lisa gives you a lot of exercises you can do in teams. So if you didn't know it, maybe now you know it. The deliverable of those discussions is usually an answer. Why are we doing this? And the why is always linked to the end customer. So when I first start these discussions, most people, like startup leaders, tell me, why? I want to earn a lot of money. That's my purpose. And I go, that's not a purpose. That's a consequence of your purpose, but that's not your purpose. A purpose is always linked to what is it that you have to offer the end customer. What performance is linked to the end customer? What deliverable do you have? I was working with a pizza company, and they had lost their way somewhat. This is a long story. I'll make it very short. But in the end, I brought the 3 generations of the family together who had founded this. And the grandparents said, we started this company because we fled from Italy after the Second World War. And we arrived in America, and we were so homesick that we started cooking at home. And our purpose was to create a home for homesick Italians. And that's why we started our company. And they lost all of that as the generations took over. And in the end, the grandson said, yeah, but if that's the purpose, I want to take over. Because at first he'd said, let this company die. So it's really a heartfelt thing. It's focused on the customer. Okay. The second step in this is priorities. Most teams have too many priorities. They have all sorts of priorities. Nobody really knows what to do anymore. All the operational priorities, there's hundreds of them. And what we do in the team coaching is really decide together with the team what are the 3 or 4 must-win battles you have in the coming 6 months. And that gives you an excuse to force them to work together. There's a lot to say about that, but I don't have a lot of time. And the third step in that direction area is choose not many metrics, choose one metric for the team that will show you that you've realized your purpose. That's very difficult for them because they have millions of metrics, but most of the metrics they have, like contradict each other. For instance, if you want to increase innovation rate, your financial margins go down and your customer satisfaction usually goes down. So most of the, that's why I tell them, look, you can't do all these metrics at the same time. You have to choose one. It's a very difficult step for them. Okay, is this clear so far? Nick is smiling. I don't know if you're doing something else or if you're smiling because of this. Any questions so far? So it's not always true you need a team. It's your first question. The team coaching takes many steps, and you start with what are we doing together that we can't do alone. So any questions about this? Or
on the app, did you mean the Liberating Structures app?
Excuse me?
Was it the Liberating Structures?
Yes.
App?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You just type
Yeah, I was busy looking for that.
So if you get nothing else but that, you're happy, Nick. That's an easy sell here. Any other?
Yeah, I used to use it a lot, but I'd kind of forgotten about it. So that's good to be reminded.
Yeah, cool. Sharon, tell me.
Just talking about the purpose. So how do you agree a consensus if you've got like a dysfunctional team? How do you get a consensus of what the purpose is?
In the end, it's the leader who sets the purpose in the structure. They have the executive vote. And everybody obviously has a personal purpose. Why am I in this team?
Yeah.
And why not in other teams? But it's really about what can we do for the customers. And that's it. In the end, it's the leader who decides. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's always good to have a discussion. Sometimes it's more elaborate than other times. So sometimes we do a whole market analysis to see, who else is out there. What are our customers asking for? What can we do that's unique in this?
Because I was wondering about how you maximize buy-in in say if there is the dysfunction and by the I don't know.
But again, once we've set one of my customers did something really brave, I thought, but very in sync with what I'm saying. It's about the team, not the individual. So we set the team purpose, and after that, he had individual discussions with his team members.
Yeah.
He said, "You've got 3 options. You can stay and work with me on the purpose. We can give you a transfer to another team, or you can leave. But you have to tell me now." That's real team leadership, huh? I thought, I wonder what's going to happen now. But he was very clear. If you don't buy into the purpose, then, sorry.
I just think it's an interest. It's for me, I'm just trying to, because team very much, we're talking about together, cooperation, interdependence. And then if you've got the leader decide, and it almost goes against the philosophy, if you see what I mean.
I think this is a discussion. We'll have it at bar, Sharon, because I believe in hierarchy, actually. I think every team needs a leader. Unfortunately, I don't believe in, I believe everyone can have leadership, but I think there should be a leader. So I don't.
I mean, I agree. I agree. It's always better though if the leader can do it in a way where it's done with people rather than done to.
Yeah, that's why they hire a team coach, so that I can be the bad person and they can the kudos. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's. I see there's many questions, and I'll probably answer them another time. I'm looking at the time, so I'm gonna also take you through, however briefly, the rest. So after people have set a direction, you need to create a structure. We have a saying in Holland, every river without banks becomes a puddle, which is basically. So once you have a direction, you have to create a structure in which you can actually fulfill your purpose. And for those of you out there who think they have the answer to this, my answer is there is no best structure. Sorry, there is no best structure. Every structure solves one problem and causes the next problem. So you have to kind of mediate, what problem do I want to have? Because you're always every structure will cause problems. If you have a very hierarchical structure, you have the problem, as we just discussed, Sharon, about buy-in. But if you have like I don't know, a business unit structure in an organization, you often get internal competition. So there's, if you have a matrix structure, the problem is you have so much overhead, it'll become twice as expensive to run. So, there is never one answer for this. The guiding light in this is you have to create a structure that actually supports the purpose. That's the only answer I have. And it can change over time. It's like a moving target sometimes. The litmus test of the structure is the decision making. So often when decision making is postponed, decisions aren't taken or not followed up. For me, it's usually a symptom of the fact that the structure itself isn't working very well. So decision-making processes are often part of the interventions I do in team coaching. You also see there the word boundaries, and that's, I've learned over time, boundaries are really important in team coaching. And it's simply the question, who's in this team and who's out of this team. Sometimes I remember I had a client where I said, so it was an executive coach client, and I said, so who am I coaching? And he said, well, these 5 leaders and my secretary. And I went, what, your secretary? Is she part of the leadership team? I was called in, by the way, because everyone was fighting about who had the most power. This gave me an answer. So in the end, he said, yeah, my secretary's in there because she replaces me when I'm on vacation. And I thought, oh, okay, I really have to start with structure work here. Clarity of roles must be important. Okay, everything okay so far? You're understanding what I'm saying? Blessing, you're online? Yeah, cool. Good to see you. So you set a direction and then you work on what structure do we need. Are there any burning questions about that? Absolutely no. Emma's going no, so we can continue, I guess. So the third step in the team coaching is then, once you know the direction and the structure, you have to decide together, how are we going to work within that structure? And for simplicity's sake, I've called that the cooperation step. I can say a lot about that, but you know, cooperation is one of the few things in psychology that we actually have a lot of research on, because after the Second World War, there were huge programs. How can we never have this happen again? Which is a bit ironic now, but they did a lot of research on, is it possible that people cooperate and create interdependence without there being a central authority? And the person who's written about that most, if you're interested, is Axelrod. He's written a book called The Evolution of Cooperation, which I really recommend for those of you who are interested in that. In this step, it's really, I teach people the 5 competencies they need to have to be able to cooperate. For me, it's the ability to contract, to communicate, to have creative conflict. This is a Monday morning problem for me, and to do consequence management as well. And there's one I forgot, so I'll come back to you on that. This is usually a very emotional part of the team coaching, and that's why it's third in place as well for me, because in the first 2 steps, they have to get to know each other, they have to get to know me. Hopefully, by the time we start talking about this difficult relational stuff, there's enough trust to do it. Okay, so any questions about that? Because this, usually beginning team coaches, they dive right into the cooperation bit before they've done purpose and structure. So my advice to you is, do not do that, as you can hear, because a lot of cooperation problems are caused by the fact that the direction isn't clear and the structure isn't helpful. So, and if you do work at the, I've seen you, Irene, I'll come back to you. If you work on the relational level before you have a safe container, you will actually make the problems worse. So, yeah, so that's my advice to you after 40 years of doing this. I started when I was 5, obviously, so that's yes.
Irene, go ahead.
What's your question?
Yes, hi, thank you so much. Just a question. Between these 4 stages, I think you have.
Yeah.
In each stage, I guess you're using tools, you're working with them, you're getting them to do work, you're educating, mentoring, teaching. You're giving them everything they need in order to then work it out together. But each stage, there's a tool that you're giving them or a structure of some kind that they work on.
Yeah, if you want to know it, come to my training program.
Okay, I will.
Because you'll get the 40 years of material building. I actually tend to give very short kind of frameworks because, you know, most of my clients are engineers, so they love frameworks. They love to think. So I give them frameworks, then I do exercises, I observe them, and I give really on-point feedback. So I always tell them, my clients say I'm brutal, but I couldn't have done it without you. That's it. So I think as a team coach, you're a healer and a surgeon, to be poetic about it. So in the healing, we create awareness, but in the surgeon, you have to be able to cut. And most people like the awareness and soft work, but if you're not able to be a surgeon, you will never be a good team coach. That's basically what I'm also telling you. So you have to be able to do that really tough confrontation. And just tell them if you're continuing like this, you know, yeah, or yeah. So the tools I give them are very short, Irene, and I do a lot of process work and then I do a lot of feedback work. Yeah. And then they get homework to practice, which they never do. So, you know, and then you start again. Hannah is smiling. So I guess that's your experience as well. Yeah. Shall I do the last step, or are there any more questions about this? And then we'll open it up. Yeah, Nick, go for it.
Yeah, I'm curious about so sometimes I'm working with people who are, you know, science or engineering background, but other people who are very well developed in psychological safety, and they're very keen and eager, and finding, you know, the work to find a shared psychological safe space where folk are coming from such different places isn't always easy.
No, but again, you know, I quite prefer working with engineers because they're very solution focused, and I love that kind of work. My experience, but your experience may be very different, is I work in volunteer organizations a lot with people like us. And what happens is they translate every problem into a relational problem. And it's actually much harder to work with because I have to explain that actually our relational problem is because our purpose isn't clear and our structure isn't clear and we didn't contract very well, actually. So, yeah. So this deep dive constantly, and you know, you rip open your heart and your soul, and this is why we are having a problem in the team, often doesn't really help in the performance of the team.
That's really helpful, thanks. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's helpful, but that's my...
Well, it does, because I think I see people, you know, there's a lot of, you know, models I've been using with for 10 years. I've now got to the point where I just see the world through those models, and I bring that into the room, and yeah, go back to the basics of contracting again.
What are we here for together that we can't do alone? For our customers. That's the only question you should be asking. Yeah. Not for us, for our customers. That's it. Yeah, Colette.
What's your thoughts on the various kind of personality type tools in this kind of coaching versus concentrating on the individuals that you're working with in the team at the time?
Yeah, so part of it's a great question. Thank you. Actually, it doesn't really matter what tool you use because people love talking about themselves. So I often start with any tool. So in my case, I use PCM, so the process communication model, which gives it was developed to recruit astronauts. So it's meant for successful people, which and it focuses on if they're under stress, what will go wrong in cooperation, which obviously is a lot what I work with in executive management teams. That's why I use it specifically. But you can use MBTI, you can use anything you want to really. The trick of those things is they're usually individual tools, and what you need is a team tool. So it's not enough to say, Colette, you're a workaholic and Smaranda is a harmonizer and whatever language you use. You have to figure out if you have this mix of personalities, is it enough to do the performance you have to do for the client again, together? What kind of cooperation problems will you have if you have this mix of personalities? It's not about debriefing about the individual personality types. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Hi, Antonio. We have 9 minutes. Okay. Short question.
Do you mind if they like each other?
No.
Okay, good. So they don't have to like each other.
They don't have to like me either.
For sure. But you know, are we overcomplicating consensus just a little bit? Isn't it just about, listen, we don't have to like each other. We don't have to know each other out of work. We've got some jobs to do. Let's just figure out how to do it in a way that everyone's ego can stay intact. We don't have to get, sometimes do we overcomplicate things? We're not just.
I don't know. Do you overcomplicate things, Antonio?
I'm consistently trying to get my clients to simplify things, because in business, if it's simple and elegant, it's always right. If it's complex and cumbersome, it's always wrong. And
okay,
so it's an oversimplification.
Sounds overcomplicated, except for you. That's great to hear. But anyway, yes, I think you don't have to like each other, but it's much easier to trust someone if you like them as well. There has to be some sort of chemistry. Unless you're doing a really repetitive, non-innovation like job. I've worked in factories a lot when I was a student. I didn't particularly worry about who was next to me on the line. But the more I have to engage with people to create new stuff, it certainly helps if you like each other, Antonio, I think. But, depends what kind of coach you are. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna do the last one.
Okay.
Yeah. So we could talk about this for hours. I opened the wrong one, but it doesn't really matter. Can you see levels of intervention here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the last, once you know the direction, where you're going, you've got a structure, you've figured out and you've taught them how to work together within that structure. Then usually what comes up is questions around values. And there's a lot in here which I won't explain, but one of the main things here I find often the question comes up about reputation. So what reputation does our team have in the system within the organization? Do we actually tell people what our purpose is, what our results are in the team? The better the reputation of the team, the more work they will get and the easier the inter-team cooperation will be. So a lot of the work there is about reputation. The work about values, I sometimes bump up to the purpose, to the first step, so the purpose work, because sometimes it's easier for people to talk about what are we doing here together that we can't do alone once they've figured out values. There's a lot of exercises for that that are much more pragmatic. I find in this cultural step what is becoming also more important, except for reputation, is diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds, diverse identities as well. And I think even if you only work in one country, usually, at least in Holland, we work with many nationalities. Sometimes I work here with teams in Holland where we have a team of 10 and 6 nationalities. So the whole idea about cross-cultural work is only if you work in multinationals is absolutely no longer true, as you probably know. And so as a team coach, one of the really important things in that step is to help them work with differences. Because certainly for my work, my tagline is Agile Business Innovation. You cannot innovate unless you work on the edges of differences. And so working with differences is a really, really important thing, apart from the fact that personally for me, it's really important. So that comes up in this 4th step. Okay. It's a bit, I would love to share with you more, but I am very conscious of the time and that we have 4 minutes left. So as I said before, we do offer an EMCC senior coach, team coach training. If you want to know anything about it, then you can go to www.intactacademy.com or just email me. That's also fine. So I will put my email in the chat as well. And that being done, I am open for 4 minutes to any comments or questions you may have. More discussion of the TA model. Tansy, every concept I explained is actually the systemic TA model. Most people only know TA from the individual concepts, ego, states, transactions, games, script. But Byrne wrote a book called The Structure and Dynamics of Groups and Organizations, and there he talks about boundaries, interdependence, dynamics, culture. So this is obviously a type of TA that most people don't know. Any other questions or comments?
A quick one from Emma earlier, who was asking if there is a compromise if you are working within the organization, if you're part of the organization and you are trying to do the team coaching.
Yes.
Is there conflict in there?
Well, yes. So never coach a team where you have a functional relationship.
Thank you. And Hannah has raised her hand up.
Hey, Hannah.
Hiya. Mine I just popped in the chat earlier. It's going back to the very beginning on the first step of the intervention. I was just asking, or I was wondering, what other questions you would ask the team to assess how the team's working together?
Yeah, I usually use the 5. So I talk about, contact, I talk about how do you communicate with each other. I talk about consequence management. So if someone is behaving badly, is it actually addressed? Because everyone levels to the level of the worst possible contributor in the team. So I talk about how they deal with conflicts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a whole, but that's all the relational stuff. You need all the other questions first, Hannah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, folks, I think we're at the end. Relax, human, grounded. Thanks a lot, Nick. I hope this contributed to your Friday and that you're going into a wonderful weekend together. Here in Holland, it's King's Day, so we have a national holiday, hence the orange. Though I didn't grow up in Holland, I think I should do my bit. You have a very different relationship to your monarchy, I think, in England than we do in Holland. We've actually got left-wing monarchs now, and that's a thing, huh? So I hope to see you all soon. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and may the power be with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.